All right, it is Springfield's Morning News, taking a little bit of break on primary day from talking about the elections and talking about why we have elections in this constitutional republic with many democracies all across the country. And it's an important foundation, probably the greatest country and civilization in world history, the United States of America. How did this all start? Well, if you are in the village of Chatham or near the village of Chatham for the 4th of July, you might want to make plans to stop by Village Square. We're talking now with the village president, Dave Kimsey, and also Steve Welch, who is here to talk about a reading they've got planned for the 4th of July. So, gentlemen, thanks for taking time with us and giving us a little bit of a break from the current politics to talk about stuff that happened back in, 1776. Dave Kimsey, tell us what you got going on.
So on the 4th of July at Chatham Village Square, right there in the heart of Chatham, at noon, we're going to do our eighth annual public reading of the Declaration of Independence. So we take an opportunity to really go back and delve into the history and give a reading the way that news was delivered back in the 1700s.
Yeah, and that's, I think, one thing that we have to keep in mind here is, and even like looking back at Juneteenth, right? I mean, just the delay of information getting out in that time period, when you have such a declaration like this, the Declaration of Independence. How do you get that word out? Well, you have like public readings in squares. So in a way, this is to revisit that. Steve, tell us about what this is going to be like. Of course, the Declaration, it's a long document, but who's going to be reading this, and is it going to be mixed up with some people? What's going on?
Yes, it's a 30-minute program, but the highlight and the focus is the Declaration of Independence public reading. And there are 5 chief readers. I'm a reader, Dave Kimsey. We have tremendous support from the Chatham American Legion. So Les Morgan is a reader, and from the VFW in Chatham, Jason Hoffman, and representing community service, Jared Kester. So those are the 5 readers. And the strategy there, the idea was to break the document down into 5 manageable parts so that one person did not read the entire declaration.
Did you have any consideration as to who maybe would be reading what part? Like what part Dave Kimsey is going to be reading, for instance?
Not so much, who got which part of it. It was what I thought was real neat about Steve's approach is when he generated this idea and got it started is where all those various groups are represented and how those things have shined through history. And we talk, obviously Steve is a legend in teaching history.
Right.
So we have, these kind of bedrocks and foundations of who we are, and it's education, it's our military and our veterans, our government, and our community service, and that's all represented in how we pick who's reading parts of the Declaration.
We're talking about a public reading of the Declaration of Independence set for July 4th at the Village Square in Chatham. Joining us is the village president of Chatham, Dave Kimsey, and Steve Welch, a retired teacher. Steve, talk about the importance of this issue and teaching and kind of that spirit that you have of wanting to ensure that people know their history and understand their history and why we come from the place we come from.
Well, one of the important aspects of this is the community that attends this event actually hears the document read. It was written to be read publicly, and many times as students matriculate through school, they might perhaps read the document or analyze the document, but to actually sit in a classroom and read the entire document out loud, that would be a different approach. So to recreate and recapture just a little bit, as in your own words, how news was delivered over 240 years ago, that was one of the considerations, and the fact that I had heard the Declaration read publicly a couple of times by a reader, a single person. Didn't quite work, but to divvy it up or to segment it so that 5 principals could read, then the audience might be refreshed as each chief reader is engaged. And so it's just an opportunity to deliver. And then later, after the event, we have this event called Parchment and Pints, where we discuss history, And that's becoming a little bit more popular as the years go on, and people have comments or they have questions about history. So it's the total package of what is public history.
And this is going on now. This is the 8th year. How many years has the Parchment and Pints, which is an awesome idea? How long has that been going on?
This is the 5th year for that, and it's hosted by the VFW. So after the Veterans Memorial Square event with the reading, later we retire to the VFW, which is near the square, right next to the American Legion, which is near the square. But in the VFW, we have a Parchment and Pints session. And I believe Jason Hoffman coined that phrase, and I took him up on it. And it's flourished a little bit, so it's a lot of fun.
I think it's fantastic. That's a great addition to the public reading of the Declaration of Independence. Again, that's going to be July 4th in the square at the Village of Chatham. With us is a retired teacher, Steve Welch, and also the village president of Chatham, Dave Kimsey, here with Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY. Springfield's News and Talk. Make your plans to get there and take part in that Parchment and Pints. Is that going to be like a guided conversation, or is it just going to be, people sitting around talking about history?
It's somewhat structured toward the beginning. There are handouts, there's an agenda, there's a focus, but it's an open classroom, so to speak, because people in the community might have a comment about Illinois history or local Chatham history.
That's always the case.
They want to compare.
Anytime you have these forums, people are going to bring up their thoughts and their perspectives.
Always respectful and always inquisitive. People want to know.
I love it.
It's a great opportunity for discussion, and they kind of know me and I kind of know them, and the village has supported this with our VFW and Legion, so it's been a great opportunity to just discuss.
And anytime you throw a beer in a mix of a conversation like that, everybody really puts their defenses down, and they're neat conversations.
I'm looking forward to this. It's July 4th at the Village Square in Chatham, a public reading of the Declaration of Independence, and then also Parchment and Pints. So looking forward to seeing the turnout there. Dave Kimsey, village president, and also Steve Welch, retired teacher. Thank you both for being here with us and telling us about the 4th of July event.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, and we'll see you on the 4th.
It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY. Springfield.